Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broaden our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I am here with Jason.
Hey, everybody.
What is up, my dude?
You know, hanging in there, watching some movies. I've watched a few more this go around.
Me too.
A couple of interesting ones to talk about, I think.
Ooh. We have an interesting film to talk about today because I selected for us Japan Organized Crime Boss from 1969, directed by Kinji Fukasaku. Legendary Japanese director, which we're definitely going to talk about at least a little bit.
Probably best known for Battle Royale, I would say.
Yep, if you're in the West, that's pretty much the first thing you'll know him by.
Which is an awesome fucking movie.
It's a great movie, super influential movie. Redefined the YA lit space forever. And still paying dividends.
Yeah, seriously.
But before all of that, we're going to talk about what we've been watching and all that other good usual stuff. And we are also part of the Prescribed Films podcast network, and we love it. And there's all kinds of other cool shows you could be listening to. Head on over to that page, look at our network label, whatever you call them, mates, see what they're up to, find you some cool stuff to listen to. Help you pass the long days, those commutes to work.
That's right.
The slow days at the office.
Tune out your coworkers, pop in your AirPods.
Yeah.
You know.
Ignore them and listen to us talk about movies.
Yeah, we're much more interesting than your coworkers.
Probably.
Sadly.
Yeah.
You got to find another job, man.
Yeah, what are you doing with your life? hey, you right there, sitting listening to us. Yeah, I'm talking to you. What are you doing, man?
Get your finger out of your ear. You don't know where that finger's been.
What have you been watching?
Okay, so I did finally make it to the theater. There's been a few movies coming out lately. I've been missing a lot of them.
Oh, I missed Sinners. I'm ashamed of myself.
Yeah, it's streaming now. I'm gonna catch it at some point. But I did go see Final Destination Bloodlines.
Hell yeah.
Which is one of my favorite franchises.
Love it.
Not every movie is amazing, but they're all fun in their own way, at least.
Sure.
And this one is pretty fun. It's pretty good. I'm here to tell you, I think it might be my third favorite.
Oh, okay.
Possibly. But this one, say it's directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein.
Okay. Should we know those names?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't know those names.
Some fresh perspective on the old Final Destination.
I just want to give some credit, you know.
Sure. It's done great at the box office. I know that.
Yeah, it's done pretty good. But it's fun. It has a this is like the beginning of the movie, so it's like a use. But the inciting incident takes place like in the 60s.
Oh.
So it's kind of a cool, different.
So it's like a generational thing.
Exactly. Cool. Ergo bloodlines. You know.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of, this one centers around a family, unlike the others, which were annoying, obnoxious friends or strangers that were brought together. You know,
wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah. So it kind of brings an interesting dynamic to it because, you know, if some douchebag, you know, druggie dies, you don't really care that much. But like if someone's brother is dying, you know, it takes on a different kind of tone. Yeah. But it's still really fun, and some of the kills are pretty gnarly. And of course, it has Tony Todd's last performance.
Yeah.
Which, you know, R.I.P. man, he's one of the best.
I heard his last lines in the film. He actually like ad libbed. They just let him say whatever he wanted. It's like very poignant.
Right.
It's about like using the time you have left.
Yeah.
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 Oh man.
And he was just one of the best. And I was lucky enough to meet him at a con, probably 10, 12 years ago, something like that.
One of the greats.
Yeah. Just great guy, great actor, one of the all-time best voices ever.
Hell yeah.
So if you have not seen Final Destination Bloodlines, I do recommend it.
Is this one like? Could you go with this like from the start if you're a neophyte?
Yeah, you don't need to see the others. Cool. Some of the events are mentioned, some of the people are mentioned, but you don't need to go see that. No.
Cool. So they're still keeping the like everything's connected part, but
they are
cool.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
In a land of reboot quills, it's a bold choice, and I applaud them.
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to get any more because it's been how long has it been?
Yeah, and the last one was like a pretty satisfying like. If they make no more, it can stop here and it feels good.
I really liked the last one.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Where it like really looped it all the way back to the first film. Brilliant.
The other movie I watched is streaming on HBO. It's called Mountainhead. Directed and written by Jesse Armstrong, who is famous for his Succession series on HBO. I know it's pure prestige drama, not the sort of thing you watch. I know.
Not ringing any bells.
Dude, it's great. It's a great fucking show. I recommend it heartily.
Prestige drama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's like really well-written, uppity television shows.
Okay.
It's
sure.
what they used to call water cooler television.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Because you would watch it, and the next day you would all talk about it.
I don't talk at the water cooler. I put my headphones on and listen to other people talk about movies.
As well you should, sir. But anyway, it's basically about a bunch of rich douchebag tech bros who get together at this retreat, this dude's house called Mountainhead. And, I mean, it's a little too close to home because it's basically about them pretty much controlling the world and just how, you know, shallow and vain and stupid they really are, and how everything's about them, and it's all egotistical, and they don't care that the world is literally burning in this case. They're just trying to one-up each other and make more money and fuck each other over. It's a really dark comedy.
Cool.
You know what? I don't know if it would be your sort of thing, but anyone out there who has seen Succession, I think would dig it.
You know, it made me, I don't know why, but it made me think of another thing, and it's actually a film that's not out yet, technically. Whatever happened to the Onania Club?
Oh, that's the one by
Mr. Human Centipede.
Yeah, wasn't that supposed to be like so shocking?
Yeah, and so it was about like a weird group of like upper class white women that get together and like masturbate to like disaster footage and stuff. And, like, bad things.
It's kind of like Crash in a way, I guess.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like real shocking and in your face.
Yeah, that disappeared, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
It did get made.
No one wants to distribute it. Was the last thing I ever heard.
Weird. I think someone would distribute it.
Kickstart that shit.
Yeah, I would never would have thought of that again if you hadn't brought it up. Interesting.
It was just in my mind. I was like, oh, a bunch of like rich people, secluded, being shitty. And then I was like, wait a minute.
Sadly, there's no female masturbation in this movie.
Yeah. I think I'll just keep waiting for that other movie.
Okay. All right. You keep waiting.
Sure.
What have you been watching?
Well, hold on though.
What?
We had a Friday the 13th.
We did.
Did you partake?
Sadly, no.
No.
I was on a family getaway, although I was in the woods by a lake, so it was the perfect setting.
Cool. So
and there was even
vibes.
Yeah,
real life.
There was even a little cemetery, like an old family cemetery across the street from us. But no, sadly, I did not get a chance to watch
meet a kindly older woman that told you of a little boy that drowned in the lake.
Yeah.
His name was Jason.
No. But I did get the shit scared out of me because I'd forgotten my phone charger, so I went up to the car to get it, and it was dark.
Dude, amateur move, man.
I know. It's like, I'm just begging to die here. And you had told me all about Dogman.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to bring up is you were in Dogman territory.
I was at the Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky, which is Dogman territory, apparently a somewhat famous cryptid in the area.
Yeah. They're like Bigfoot, except they'll just fucking destroy you.
Right.
Yeah, they're not like...
They're not shy and
benevolent
timid.
Or shy and timid, and no, like they just jump out and then like rip you apart if you're not in a moving vehicle already.
Yeah, so I'm out there, and then I hear this crunching sound, like in the woods right next to the house. I'm like, oh fuck, it's Dogman. And I look over just in time to see this deer's butt take off into the forest. I was like,
the deer's like, oh shit, it's Dogman.
Yeah, I'm getting out of here. It's fucking Dogman.
Before we close the book on that, 2 fun facts. Fun fact 1. People theorize that it might be portals that the dogmen use to get around.
Portals?
Yeah. And then 2, there's some that theorize that in the Land Between the Lakes, there's a war between the Bigfoot and the dogmen.
Oh, there's supposed to be big feet there, too?
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Look it up. I think...
I just saw a fuck ton of deer. That's basically
There's a documentary on Tubi, I think. I linked it to you.
You did.
I'll link it in the show notes. I don't remember its title currently, but... It's by one of those production companies that all they do is make like cryptid and paranormal documentaries.
Right.
And they did one about like dogman sightings there.
Interesting. Okay. Right. Yes.
Fun little local flavor we can toss your way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So what have you been watching?
I've got some stuff. I dug more into that J-Horror Rising box set from Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about it an episode or 2 ago, I know. I had mentioned it recently because I had looked and picked one of the discs and revisited some of the films by Koji Shiraishi, who we love, of course. But there are some films in there I had never seen, so I wanted to go back for those. And these both actually came out in 2001. So the first one is Inugami, directed by Masato Harada. And it's based on the legend of the Inugami, which we have talked about on the show before because I don't think we covered it, but what is it, like the Curse of the Dog God or whatever, came out on Blu-ray recently, like a year or two ago, and that's also based on the legend of the Inugami, and I talked about it some when it came out because it was crazy. This is the more mature, muted take on the legend. It's basically about this dude named Akira. He's a teacher from Tokyo, and he takes a position at this very rural, middle of nowhere, up in the mountains, Japanese village, just for a change of pace, to get out of the city, get away from all the rat race,
Sure.
And when he arrives there, he falls in love with this older woman who's kind of seen, like, she's a little ostracized by the village because she's from, like, one of the founding families, and there's all this, like, intrigue about that, and they're maybe cursed or something, and she's, like, a little older, so she should have already been married, and she's kind of looked down upon for that. And she works as a paper maker, like, where you actually, like, make sheets of paper by hand and, like, do the whole entire process.
Right.
Which is super interesting because you get to see her go through all of that and, like, the artistry that's involved and the way that she can, like, dye them to make them different colors and consistencies, and it's really interesting. But he kind of meets her, falls in love with her, and starts to try to pursue a relationship with her while he's warned by many in the village because they start talking about the curse of the Inugami. And it's kind of that same vibe as Curse of the Dog God, where it's like there's a slow build up. There's just a lot of dread the whole time. Like something ominous is just on the horizon. You don't know what it is. And it keeps building up and building up. And as it goes, he starts to learn secrets about her family and weird stuff that's gone on. And people start to have accidents around the city and die in mysterious ways. And they keep blaming the Inugami. And it's very like folk horror almost in the way it builds up.
Cool.
And then it has this crazy final act explosion that just goes super crazy, and I don't want to spoil any of it because it is a really interesting film. I think if you go at it wanting like your typical J-horror vibe, you're not going to be satisfied because there's really none of that. It's much more of like bit of romance, bit of drama with lots of dread, and then in the final act, it all just like boils over and goes crazy and gets really gory, really wild, really over the top.
Cool. All right. I believe that's streaming on Arrow.
I think, yeah, that entire box set should be on the Arrow player by now. But yeah, it was really cool, really interesting. Masato Harada, he's done some other stuff. I know him for Gunhead, which is a weird live-action mecha film. It's like a sci-fi thing, and they find this like big giant robot, and they're running around and doing shit in.
I think I've seen that.
It was a favorite of like direct-to-video kind of release stuff. So that's super cool. The other film I checked out that was also on that disc is St. John's Wort. And what I can tell you about this film is like, if Inugami was like kind of this almost A24-ish, like prestige-y kind of movie, St. John's Wort was the complete opposite. It's directed by Ten Shimoyama, who I wasn't super familiar with.
That's based on a video game, right?
Yes, so it's based on a video game, and it's one of those video games that's like a text adventure. So, they call them visual novels sometimes. It's like there's graphics, like art, and then there's music, but then everything is like text that you read through and progress. And usually there'll be like dialogue choices that you pick. And depending on what you pick, the story can branch in different directions and have different outcomes and endings. And a lot of like anime-themed visual novels, that's where you'll have like the romantic stuff where it's like there's usually like 3 to 5 different girls, and it's like which girl are you going to pick and focus on, and there'll be different endings depending on that outcome, and that leads into hentai games as well too, which is
of course it does.
Same thing, but then they add in sex scenes. So this was like adapting a horror visual novel into a film, and they did it in this weird way where like it's about a game development studio making a game like that based on a real story.
How meta.
And so it's about one of their crew named Nami, and she recently, like, she has this mysterious past. She was, like, given up as a little kid, and she doesn't know a lot about her original birth parents. And her actual real father passed away and had something, like, where they could track her down, and, like, he left this mansion to her. And so she wants to go and explore the mansion and find out about her father and who he was. And then their studio makes horror games, so they're like, oh, we should go and, like, scout the mansion, and then turn that into like a game.
Sound idea.
Great haunted little mansion thing, mystery,
Sure.
like exploring it, trying to find out the truth. And it'll kind of be inspired by your own story. That'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes with like the kind of like main director guy of the company. And there's this really cool, like several of the other people that work there kind of have a base camp in their office. And they're just like locked at computers the whole time. And it's like as they're going, it feels like you're watching a video game be played. Because it's like they'll explore the mansion room by room. And they'll find stuff. And then they'll like cell phone call back to the office to talk to the two people at the computers and be like, oh, we saw a reference to, XYZ. Can you look that up on the computer and tell us about it? And then they'll like do like research and then call them back and give them updated information.
I know it's not the same thing, but I keep having flashbacks to that Halloween movie where they were in the house, the kids locked in the house and stuff, but it was the live stream.
Yeah, the really fucking stupid one. Yeah.
Sorry. Please continue.
This also gave me shades of one of the worst Hellraiser sequels, which is Hellworld.
Ooh.
Where they tried to have like there's a computer game, then the puzzle box is like in the computer game to draw people in. Awful. But to this one's credit, it has a neat premise, and it'll do this thing where sometimes it'll shift and show it how it looks in the game with like the graphical art and the text and stuff.
Okay.
And as they go, it starts to get more interesting. It feels so much like a Resident Evil or any of those kind of games, because it's like they'll go to a room and it's like, oh, this door is locked. And there's like a little picture here of like a diamond or something. And then like later they'll be like, oh, we found a key and there's a diamond etched on it. Oh, I bet the diamond key goes to the diamond door.
Yeah.
And so there's literally like they'll find stuff and you'll be like, oh, that's for the room that was back here. You have to go back there now. And then they'll be like, oh, we need to go back to this room. Do. And then they get into some interesting stuff where like the two producer people, one's a chick who's really cool and like punk rocky, very cute.
Mm-hmm.
And she like starts to map the mansion based on the pictures they provide. So at one point they hit a dead end, and then she realizes once they map it graphically, there's like a dead space that should be a room, and they realize there's actually a secret chamber. So then they have to figure out how to get in the secret chamber, and
nice.
They start to learn more and more about her father, and who's apparently this tortured artist that did these really disturbing, horrific paintings. And it gets weirder and weirder and weirder, and it kind of has a crazy, almost Evil Dead trap twist where it gets into like her having a twin that's maybe a little crazy and unhinged. And
I love Evil Dead Trap.
It's a cool movie and it's an interesting movie and it's fun to watch, but it's super sloppy. And the whole like present it as a video game when it's about a group making a video game doesn't quite work.
Right.
You get like whiffs at times of like the highs of Existence, but it just never goes up to that level and like sticks there the whole time.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty high fucking bar.
Yeah. But interesting movie, especially if you like kind of the cross section of like video games and horror and stuff like that. I think it's a cool watch.
Cool.
And that should be streaming on Arrow as well.
Yeah.
Now, for Friday the 13th, I didn't think I was going to get to watch anything, but very late at night, as it was about to roll over into the next day, I began a revisit of Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, also known as the fifth entry, one of my personal favorites.
I love part 5.
It's so much fun. Demon makes it for me, man. Just great fucking
Damn enchiladas.
Great fucking actor. His role is slight, but it is like one of the best things ever. God, I just love it so much.
It's a fun movie.
It's a fun movie.
It's a dumb movie.
It's dumb.
It's so stupid.
Everything is
so
punched up to
over
11.
the top. Yeah, it's just.
How
can you not like it?
Every kid is a caricature of like a certain type of person, and they're just dialed up the whole way. Probably the weakest Tommy Jarvis, I would say, of the three.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
But I think he's the right one for that part of the story where he's kind of like...
He has a good physicality. Like his fight scene and stuff. He's bashing a dude on the table and shit. That's pretty...
you can still... He's still at like the crossroads of like scared kid and survivor.
Just not Tom Matthews cool yet.
Yeah. You know. And that's when he makes the flip in the next one.
5 also has the really hot, punky, gothy, new wave chick.
Oh, yeah, it does. And you get the great scene of her like dancing.
Doing her robot dance.
Doing the robot dance.
Yeah.
Violet.
Vi.
Also has one of the most obnoxious side characters of any of them, but you get the satisfaction of watching him die. So
right.
In a weird way, too, where it's like, it's just a random fucking murder that happens that's not Jason's.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's great.
That's great, and I like Roy. I like him as like the copycat killer thing. It's a dumb twist that you can never guess, but I think the hockey mask with like the blue markings is a cool look, and it's fun. I mean, what are you gonna do? You killed him permanently, so
It's not like you can bring him back.
they were experimenting. And then they decided, you know what? Yes, we can bring him back. It's a fun film. If you hate it or you remember it being kind of shitty and you've not seen it in a while, give it a rewatch.
It's got some good kills.
It's got some good kills. It's kind of right before the cusp of where they started to make them tone them down. Because I think like it got through, and then Jason Lives is mostly unscathed. But then really from 7 on is when they started to like...
Well, Jason Lives doesn't have any nudity either. That's when they really started cutting out the nudity a lot.
True, yeah. So
I guess they thought that scene in the woods.
So I guess 5 really is the last one where they're purely untouched from any kind of like concern.
I think so.
Just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Which I love and I respect. So
damn right.
And I hope you listeners at home had a happy Friday the 13th, and maybe you also got to enjoy some of the exploits of Jason Voorhees as we await with anticipation to see what will happen with all this new Jason-verse stuff that they're doing.
My expectations are beyond low.
Well, I think that brings us to our film.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Alright, so today we're talking about Japan Organized Crime Boss from 1969, directed by Kinji Fukasaku. I'll hit you with the synopsis right out the gate.
Okay.
When I bring it up. Here we go. Coming out of jail and hoping for a quiet life, Yokohama yakuza... Oh, this is a typo. Didn't we talk about this having a typo when I first... Yeah.
Right. Still has that same typo.
Yeah, okay. Let's start over. Coming out of jail and hoping for a quiet life, a Yokohama yakuza has to take the lead of his gang after the death of the boss. His small group is taken in a crossfire between a big yakuza group from Osaka at war with the Tokyo Alliance for control of the city. He tries to keep to the old yakuza code, but he is no match for the new thugs who live and fight without honor.
Good summation.
Good summation. Classic fucking yakuza film premise.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. What genre is this?
Well... we'll see what IMDb thinks. They call it action crime.
That's fair.
Very fair. It's definitely a crime movie. It's definitely, I mean, it's also its own subgenre, like Yakuza. That's its own.
Yeah, the wiki article straight up says this is a Japanese Yakuza film.
Yeah,
and I think that's the best summation of what it is.
And when I don't know, it also has a lot of different elements. It has drama, some kind of noirish elements almost. This is something we'll talk about as we get into it. It also has a very kind of, I don't know, at times like industrial sort of raw feeling to it.
It feels like it could be a documentary, even though you know it's a fictional piece.
And it starts off very much like a documentary.
Which it's based on true events. That's the other kicker to it.
Yeah.
Which is something that Fukasaku played around with a lot, which we'll talk about. Maybe I should orient us first before we go into the film.
Go for it.
So I have a bunch of research. So
all right.
Let's talk about Fukasaku at first. He was a Japanese film director and screenwriter, born in July of 1930, and he lived until January 2003. Rest in peace. One of the greats. He was known for his broad range and innovative filmmaking style. He worked in many different genres, but he was definitely most popularly known for his gritty Yakuza films, and that's most typified by the Battles Without Honor and Humanity series, several films that he made from 1973 to 1976, which is a great fucking series. They have box sets of them now by Arrow. They might be on the Arrow player to stream as well. I know they get shopped out a lot. Like even Shudder like had them for a while on their service. So pretty easy to get at nowadays. And the whole thing about that series was that it was all based on actual accounts of Yakuza activity. And so in a lot of ways, this film in 69 kind of feels like it's like a test run or like a precursor to then they refined it further when they started that series.
Right.
But this is from the Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive. Speaking of his works, they said his turbulent energy and at times extreme violence express a cynical critique of social conditions and genuine sympathy for those who have been left out of Japan's post-war prosperity. He's famed for using a cinema verite style of filmmaking.
Oh, I was going to say cinema verite soon.
I know, it's probably just burning on your tongue to say. He is super noted for pioneering and really making great use of like shaky cam techniques. And that was super influential on even to now in the modern day. But he back in the early 70s, he was like really pushing the envelope on trying to like make interesting composition shots and shaky cam and to really give like an energy to the footage you're watching. He wrote and directed over 60 films. Sometimes in the West, he's often associated with the Japanese New Wave, which was that movement in the 60s and the 70s where they kind of tried to break out of the studio system and like really get experimental and weird and crazy. But that kind of, to put him in that group kind of betrays like how commercially successful he was. Fukasaku was always attached to a studio. Often it was Toei, as with this film. And, you know, he was like the studio darling. He always did great. He was great working in that system. When I think of the Japanese New Wave, I think of someone like a Seijun Suzuki, who's super avant-garde, super pushing the envelope, to the point that he got fucking kicked out of his studio and had to go independent for a while because he, you know, they would give him notes and tell him to do things, and he would just say, no, I know better.
Yeah.
That's Japanese New Wave to me.
Nice.
Not to discredit Fukasaku, it's just, you know, he was very talented at working within the system to still do what he wanted to do. He was never canned by any of his studio contacts. His work include the Japanese portion of the Hollywood war film Tora 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 from 1970.
Oh, yes.
Jitageki action films such as Shogun Samurai from 1978. He did the space opera Message from Space from 1978. The post-apocalyptic science fiction film Virus from 1980. It's kind of an early J-horror precursor. The fantasy film Samurai Reincarnation from 1981, which I personally fucking love, and it's insane. And we'll maybe talk about that another day.
Cool.
And then what he's going to be most known for in the West, the extremely and cannot be understated how influential it is, dystopian thriller Battle Royale from the year 2000. He won the Japan Academy Film Prize for Director of the Year 3 times, and he was nominated 9 times across his career. He served as the president of the Directors Guild of Japan from 1996 until his death. In 97, he got the Purple Medal of Honor from the Japanese government for his work and achievement in film.
Wow. And
here in the West, directors that we listen to and follow and care about, some of them that have cited him as a big inspiration include people like Quentin Tarantino, of fucking course, William Friedkin, and John Woo.
No, so. Yeah. I was going to say the whole heroic bloodshed thing is taking them right from the Yakuza films.
Yep, they just gave it that little special sauce to it to make it something else. This film in particular was co-written with some people that were pretty notable for Japanese cinema. The first is Fumio Konami, who also wrote Zero Woman, Red Handcuffs, a Pinku film that we have talked about on here before and that I quite champion. And also Norio Osada, who is known for writing Lady Snowblood. Super famous, super influential. That's like one of the big ones Quentin Tarantino, like...
Yeah.
It's the deep well that he constantly pulls from. And then, let's see. Oh, I wanted to mention Bunta Sugawara. He plays a character in this called Kazama. Super iconic actor. He has that just great, like, stoic face to him. We've talked about him before because he appeared in a small cameo in the Pinku film Star of David, Beautiful Girl Hunter. He was the trucker that picked up the chick for a while and tried to help her, and then things went sideways as they do. But he's appeared in a ton of other Fukasaku films, many of the entries in the Battles Without Honor and Humanity series. If you were making a Yakuza film, he is like a great pick because he just has that look, has that energy. He's a bit like a Riki Takeuchi or sorts, where you can really, like, they just exude that aura for a good Yakuza character. So that's everything I've got about Fukasaku as far as like a background to orient us. I also want to talk a bit about Yakuza films in general. I'm going to take you back, Jason, to like year 2 of the podcast.
Okay.
When I used to do deep research on the subgenres we talked about.
Yes.
I did that for this just because I felt like honoring Fukasaku.
All right.
So this film was seen as his first film about what people would say, quote, modern Yakuza. And when I say that, it kind of relates to like how films about them have evolved over the years. So I compiled this from, several different articles and Wikipedia entries. Let me take you on a whirlwind tour of this subgenre. We go all the way back to the silent film era, and we get movies depicting Bakuto, which are kind of the precursor of modern Yakuza. They were often Robin Hood-like characters that were very common in other stories of the time. It was historical figures that had legends about them. Usually they were sympathetic but lonely outcasts. They would be the type that, they would steal from like the corrupt government or a rich, wealthy person that was abusing their wealth and their influence, and then try to undermine them and give it back to the people type thing.
Right.
The classic Robin Hood archetype,
Yep.
Which pretty much every culture has some interpretation of that.
Thief with the heart of gold. Yeah.
Yes. A lot of these characters were considered, they're forced to live an outlaw existence, and they long, however hopelessly, to go back to straight society, but never can due to their circumstances. Of these historical figures, Kunisada Chuji was a very popular subject. There was a 3-part film serial in 1927 called The Diary of Chuji's Travels. This depicted different incidents of legends about that character.
No, it's just a real historical figure, or it's like a folkloric figure?
So it's kind of like a King Arthur situation where it's like there was a person with that name. Is every exploit a real thing that happened, or is it like, legends start to build kind of thing?
Got it.
During World War II, the Japanese government started using cinema for propaganda. And so that made the Bakuto subgenre kind of just fade from existence because it was no longer relevant or important for the time. Mark Schilling, in his book on Yakuza films called The Yakuza Movie Book, A Guide to Japanese Gangster Films, mentions Akira Kurosawa's Drunken Angel from 1948 as the first film to depict a post-war Yakuza on cinema. But he noted it didn't really follow the genre's common themes. It's a bit of an outlier, but it was like the first interpretation of that. The occupation of Japan that followed World War II also heavily monitored the films being made, so that kind of also stamped down on having any kind of like crime films that would go to like extreme lengths.
Yeah, the American occupation probably didn't help either.
Yeah. However, when the occupation ended in 1952, period pieces of all kinds came back to popularity. I think, and this is a whole worm we could get into about occupation of Japan, but
sure.
There was definitely like a push to kind of downplay a lot of their culture and like historical stuff. Probably out of a misguided sense that I don't know.
It would inflame some sort of national identity that would make them.
But once that occupation ended, they were finally able to kind of come back into the limelight, which, now there's so many legendary like historical Japanese films that revolutionized cinema in the world. But so going on from that into the 60s, we began to get a lot more Yakuza-related films, like 1961's Hana to Arashi by Teruo Ishii, which made a whole popular series of movies that were just about gangs and their life and the different like gang and family warfare that went on. So moving ahead a little further, bringing up a studio that we all love here, Nakatsu. They made modern Yakuza films under the Mukokuseki Action moniker. Translated, that means borderless action. And so their like twist on this was that rather than kind of looking at films that came before, they started looking at American gangster films made out of Hollywood. And they started saying, like, we want to make our Yakuza films look more like that. So they started to want to have like the very dashing leading man front and center. And that got typified by the Watari Dori series that started in 1959 and starred Akira Kobayashi in most of the installments, along with a name that we know lovingly here on the podcast, Joe Shishido. Mr. Chipmunk Cheeks himself. There's, you see him and you'll never forget his face.
Yeah.
Another popular series from that time in the 50s moving into the 60s was the Kinju Boraicho series that starred Keiichiro Akagi and also, again, Joe Shishido, because he, again, was like a goat in this genre. Just, flooded. If you could cast him in the film, you wanted to, because it was gonna do gold for you.
Right.
At this same time, a subset of films known as Ninkyo Eiga began to thrive. And translated, we would call that chivalry films. A lot of these were made by Toei and produced by Koji Shundo. And he had actually been close to some real-world yakuza before becoming a producer. And there were even rumors that he was a member of a yakuza group for a time, but he denies that.
I bet he does.
But he really wanted to emulate the real history and bring in some real world element to it and not be so fantastical. So a lot of these chivalry films were set in the Meiji and Taisho eras, and you would have these kimono clad yakuza hero who's very stoic and honorable, and he's the outlaw on the wrong side of the law, and he's torn between his duty to the gang that he's a part of, but also his personal feelings and his desires and wants, and tries to wrestle with those, and usually comes out on the wrong end of things.
Sounds familiar.
Yep. Let's see. And a lot of it had to do with their willingness to fight and die to save someone or their boss, and that was supposed to be seen as something beautiful. It was this noble sacrifice to want to give your life for the good of the clan. And in that same book on Yakuza film, he cited Tadashi Sawashima's Jinsei Gekijo from 1963 as the start of this trend. The films were super popular with young males that had been moving into the city from the countryside. We know that. You and I grew up in a very rural area. You got to move to the city to find the jobs.
Yep.
And then once you get there, you find that it's crappy conditions, and if you don't have any kind of background or education, you're stuck with low-paying, shitty jobs.
Yep.
So suddenly, films about these outcasts from society struggling to get by become super appealing. In their book Yakuza Film and Their Times, Tsukasa Shiba and Sakai Aoyama talked about this and stated that these young men, isolated in an era of high economic growth and tight social structures, were attracted to the motifs of male comrades banding together to battle against the power structures that be.
Nice.
Classic appeal.
Yeah, right.
So Shundo supervised Takakura and helped Toei sign Saruta into the mix, and his own daughter Junko Fuji, who then became a popular female Yakuza actress, starring in the Red Peony Gambler series, which those recently also got a Blu-ray release, which is awesome. Eventually, as these took off and got popular, everybody else started looking. You had that same clamor to go do it themselves. So Nakatsu started making their own entries with films like Otoko no Monsho in 1963. But also Nakatsu, they're not afraid to experiment. So in their stable, they had Seijun Suzuki until they kicked him out. And so he started making very surreal, B-film type interpretations of these. And that leads to stuff like Tokyo Drifter. But in 1967, he was fired after making the very avant-garde, and I fucking love it, Branded to Kill, which is a super surreal, super crazy black and white Yakuza film.
Okay.
I think it was written by the guy who did Inflatable Sex Doll of the Wasteland. So that tells you all you need to know about how odd it turned out.
Okay.
Likewise, at the same time, Daiei Film entered this with Akumyo in 1961, which starred Shintaro Katsu, famous actor for doing a lot of samurai-era films and stuff. He was Zatoichi in a ton of the entries of that franchise. And then they also made a rival to Toei's female Yakuza genre by casting a famous actress of the time, Kyoko Anami, to star in the Ona Tobakuchi series. In 1965, right in the middle of all of this, Teruo Ishii, which is again another super legendary Japanese director, he made the first installment in the Abashiri Prison series, which was a huge success, and also spawned a lot of imitators where you started to get the like prison crime film, where it's about people trapped in prison and trying to navigate that system and get out, or even just survive. So aside from these films, at the same time you were getting a lot of Chanbara samurai films, made in the 60s and 70s that would usually have provincial yakuza depicted. They show up as villains in things like Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, which of course famously is about him pitting two different gangs against one another. And then Zatoichi, they were pretty much a staple. If it wasn't like another master swordsman he's fighting, he drifted into a town and there's some shitty gang and he tries to one-up them.
Yeah.
So according to Yakuza film historian Akihiko Ito, they were looking to do like something new, and Toei producer Koji Shundo had this idea that we needed to make a film that's set against the social background of the time they were in the 60s, moving into the 70s. You had this period of high economic growth, and everything was rapidly changing and modernizing. But by contrast, a lot of the Yakuza films were being set like way back, like samurai time in the past. And so he kind of got out ahead of everything and was like, we need to do the now. What's the now version of this? And so by contrast, we eventually get things like this film and many other of its contemporaries where they try to take a much more like cold, honest look at the life of crime. They don't really sensationalize it so much as they just say, these are the events, look at them, think what you must. And that led to what was called the Jitsuroku Eiga, or actual record films. And as we move 60s into the 70s, those more classical, fantastical ones kind of die off in place for movies like the one we're talking about today. So these were movies that were usually based on true accounts of Yakuza activity, either pulled right out of the newspaper or pulled from like diaries or accounts people had published after the fact. They portrayed post-war Yakuza not as honorable heirs to the samurai code, but as ruthless, treacherous street thugs living for their own desires by any means possible.
So, the truth,
yeah. Many of these were based on true events and often used a more documentary-style presentation to really hammer home the realism of it all. This became super popular once Fukasaku made 1973's Battles Without Honor and Humanity, which was based on the events of a real-life turf war in the Hiroshima prefecture. And it starred Bunta Sugawara, which again, like I said, he's a great guy for these. And it spawned 4 sequels and then a later 3-part series that followed up, looking even further into the future. Sadao Yamane is a biographer who's written a lot about Fukasaku. And Yamane believes that these films were popular because of the time of their release. Japan's economic growth had reached its peak at the end of the 60s, and then that's when the student uprisings took place. Which I'm not going to go super deep into that. You can go back in our archive, and we have episodes where that was relevant to the film, and we've talked about it before. Long and the short of it is, though, those uprisings, the youth, the college students, they had very similar feelings to those in the post-war society right after that, during the occupation. And so in a lot of ways, these films about people of that time, it kind of echoed. And there's like this sibilance between them. Another style that sparked off at the exact same time, going into the 70s, is the Hitman film. And so this focused on hired assassins that operate within the world of the Yakuza, but are not bound by the usual traditions and obligations and rules and kind of code of honor that they all follow. And that includes things like Toru Murakawa's Game Trilogy from 78 to 79. And then several films that all starred the legend Sonny Chiba as a hitman with karate skills. Films like 1970's Yakuza Deka or The Street Fighter from 1974.
Classic.
And then also 70s, you have the height of the Pink film. They're just blown off the chain too. And naturally, when you're making very transgressive films about sex and people on the wrong side of the law, that tends to lead to Yakuza being in the mix as well. And so there's plenty of famous pink films in that vein as well, including stuff like Sex and Fury and its follow-up Female Yakuza Tale from 1973. So then we get to the 80s, the Japanese bubble economy. We've also talked about that extensively in other episodes.
No.
Yakuza movies began to decline, and a lot of that had to do with the rise of VCRs in the home video market. The only exception for the time was the Yakuza Wives series, starring Shima Owashita, which was based on a book of interviews where the wives and girlfriends of actual Yakuza members kind of spilled all their dirty secrets. It was very scandalous for the time. So, in 94, Toei announced that The Man Who Shot the Dawn, starring Hiroki Matsukata, would be their last Yakuza film unless it could make $4 million in home video rentals. It didn't, and then they announced that they would never make any more Yakuza films ever again. But a couple of years later, they returned and continued to do so on and off to this day.
You gotta go back to the well.
But why did they come back? Because we hit the 90s. The Japanese bubble economy has broken. Things are in a downturn again. We're starting to get more of the look at the nasty side of things. And in the 1990s, we saw the rise of the low-budget direct-to-video movies called Gokudo, which had a wealth of Yakuza focus in their plots, and that includes Toei's legendary V-Cinema line, which started exactly in 1990. Working on those, the fact that they're direct-to-video, the fact that they're low-budget, the studio doesn't really care as long as they make their money back. All this new wave of young directors had the freedom to push and really like go as far as they could with it and like take that envelope all the way up as far as they could go. Some notable people for that, we had Rokuro Mochizuki, who broke through with Onibi in 1997. Directors like Shinji Aoyama, or one that we love, Kiyoshi Kurosawa, started out in the home video market before their films got really popular in international festival circuits, and that began to like increase their profile and get them actual studio attention. And perhaps the most well-known Gokudo creator of all time, and a legend of our podcast, Takashi Miike, who became known internationally for his extremely violent, genre-pushing, and border-crossing films, including the likes of stuff like 1997's Rainy Dog. One director who still worked in this genre, though, that didn't look into the home video circuit was Takeshi Kitano of
AKA Beat Takeshi.
Beat Takeshi of Takeshi's Castle fame, aka MXC, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. If you've seen the hilarious dub up of that, his more like mental kind of heady Yakuza films, very existential, are famous for their own unique style.
Who's also in Battle Royale.
Who also, stars in Battle Royale, linking us all back in. But his films use very harsh edits, minimal dialogue, a lot more like score and scenery to get the mood to you, odd humor, but then weighted against moments of extreme violence. And that started in 93 with his film Sonatine, and most people could say it was perfected by 97 when he made Hanabi. And he's made plenty of other films in between. And most recently, he did a trilogy called Outrage that I think is like a super great modern-day Yakuza epic, where it's one consistent story across 3 films, and you really see like the growth and the rise of things, then like the downfall of it all, and just a super epic.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of his work. I need to.
Weirdly, the first and third one are on Tubi. But the second one's not, so I don't know if that's like a right issue or what.
How
odd. They're all out on Blu-ray. They're purchasable.
All right.
Something to look into. So that's kind of our whirlwind history of Yakuza films.
All right. Nice.
And we can actually talk about our movie now.
Ah.
Now that I have oriented you in the world of this subgenre.
Excellent.
So we start out with this, like, as you put it, very, very documentary style prologue.
Yeah. We get narration and everything, and there's like almost stock footage looking images. And we hear about the Dano organization.
Yeah.
Or I guess Dano, really. I should
Dano,
pronounce it.
yeah. They're the largest Yakuza family, and they've been expanding from their base in Osaka since the post-war period. Their leader, Boss Dano, has been really pushing for them to expand and grow.
And he's presented very much like, because he's like old, he's bald,
Yeah.
wearing glasses. He's presented more like just any CEO, like any businessman, really.
Yeah, the head of a company or something.
Yeah.
And these shots, like, they're showing, like, the violence and the battles that are going on.
Yeah.
I wanted to highlight some of these individual scenes because they're kind of cool. Like, immediately we get the feel of, like, where he would experiment with, like, angles and the way he did shots and stuff. Like, there's one where it's, like, some dudes are coming up the stairs, and then at the top of the stairs, another gang appears and then just blows them away. Mm-hmm. But you're seeing it, like, panning across, but also tilted diagonally.
Yeah.
At the same
lot
time.
of Dutch angles in this movie.
It's like you're riding in a car that's just zipping by for a second as it's going down.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Another notable individual of the Dano family is Tsubaki.
Yeah, Tsubaki.
Who I really like. He's a cool character.
He always wears a white suit. That's how you can know he stands out.
Yeah. That's how you know he's a badass.
I
So...
was gonna tell you who played him, but I...
Ryohei Ukaida?
Yes.
If I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably not. I apologize. I'll probably massacre a lot of names here.
It happens. It's okay.
But I think most of the action takes place in Yokohama, right?
It does, yes.
So the basic gang that we follow is the Hamanaka family.
Yep.
And they have pledged fealty to the Dano organization, as a lot of families have.
Because they were a little tiny local family.
Yeah.
It seemed like the only way to kind of survive and keep control of their turf.
Again, there's kind of that whole comparison to like a huge company that just keeps gobbling up all the little smaller mom and pop stores and stuff like that.
But the Dano organization is opposed by the yakuza families in Tokyo that have merged and formed the Tokyo Alliance.
Yes.
Headed by boss Yato, who's been made their chairman. And so they kind of are having this proxy war over the control of Yokohama, which they show you the map at one point, and if you look at it, Yokohama's kind of halfway between Osaka and Tokyo.
Yeah.
So it's like the perfect like middle ground that if you control that, you've got like good routes either way.
It's a stepping stone to everything else.
It's a stepping stone to everything else. And so the alliance has kind of allied with the Sakurada family, which are currently the dominant family in Yokohama, to kind of make them like rise up and take complete control of the city by proxy.
Yeah, so they're fighting the Hamanaka family.
Yep.
So, and they even say that the narration even it's like a proxy war is going on, which is very, it's an allusion to all of the turmoil that was going on politically at the time.
Yeah.
Like the Vietnam War, a lot of the stuff going on in the Middle East. It was like America and Russia having these proxy wars everywhere, not actually fighting each other, but pitting other countries against each other.
Yeah, and they literally spell it out in some of the dialogue. They're like, we're going to have these other gangs fight for us. We don't lose any of our men, but we get to reap all the benefits and the glory.
Right.
But shortly we are introduced to... Oh, wait, no, there's one more scene I want to talk about in this intro. We see a dude get his fucking arm cut off.
This is... Yeah. And the violence in this movie is great. It's very modern almost.
Super modern, super in your face with it. Like it just fucking happens.
It's so hilarious. At this time in '69, a movie like Bonnie and Clyde in America was shocking.
Yeah.
Because it was showing like people getting shot. They were using squibs and stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone was like losing their fucking mind because it was so gory. But the Japanese have been doing this for decades already. And this movie is far more violent than Bonnie and Clyde or any of those flicks.
Oh, yeah. But notable thing is you think that's just a throwaway scene, but the dude comes back.
Yeah.
So put a pin in the one-armed man.
Yeah.
He'll be back. But we're introduced to our leading character. He was the right-hand man to the Hamanaka family.
Yes.
Tetsuo Tsukamoto.
Yes. He spent 8 years in prison.
And he is played by Koji Saruta.
Who is freaking awesome.
He's super cool. We get our classic little scene where he is let out of the jail and kind of walks out into the street, looks around, there's no one there to greet him or anything, and he just goes about his business.
Yep, keeps on walking.
Starts to make his way to the, I guess it's kind of like warehouses that the Hamanaka family control.
Yeah.
And we learn a few things about him. We know he had a wife, and we learn that she actually committed suicide while he was in prison.
Yep.
She wasn't able to hold on and wait for him. She thought he would be stuck in there forever. But Tsukamoto doesn't have a lot of time to wrestle with that because the second he walks back up on his gang, they're in the middle of conflict.
They are. But they also, it's important to note that because he's like their brother. He's like one of the hierarchs in the family. So everyone's very differential to him.
Yep.
But they also seem to genuinely like him and respect him. It's not just like they're afraid of him.
Because he's like the classic yakuza. He follows all the rules.
Yeah.
Does everything by the
calm,
book.
cool, collected.
Total badass.
Yep. But yeah, there's an attack, and the leader of the Hamanaka clan is killed.
They fucking car bomb him.
Yeah, they threw dynamite into their car. So with his dying breath, he's like telling Tsukamoto to take over the family.
Yeah. He admits that he's made some mistakes. He says, after you went to prison, I had a hard time keeping control of things. I thought we were going to get crushed by the Sakurada. So I allied with the Dano organization.
Yeah.
And it's been a mistake. They've been abusing us. They're just using us in this proxy war.
Yeah.
They're going to grind us down till we're all dead unless we get out of the deal somehow.
Yeah. And he tells Tsukamoto to reject the Dano organization and get away from them.
He says, I'm going to leave the family in your control. All I want you to do is just get us out of this somehow. Let us go back to our old ways. Because all this new stuff is too much.
Mm-hmm. So then we get a funeral scene, which is fun because all of the bosses come to visit to pay their respects, right?
You get these cool scenes of all these sedans that are black rolling up one by one.
And there's like soldiers like holding crowds back and shit. Because, I mean, it's kind of like the American Mafia, I guess. Because everyone knows they're in the Mafia, but they can't prove it.
Right. And the police can't act until they actually have proof or evidence or like something literally happens right in front of their face.
Yeah.
Which is why they're there. Which then makes these really tense scenes because you have all this emotion and conflict boiling under the surface.
Yeah, and the Hamanaka people, they don't know. Maybe there's going to be another attack. They don't know.
And there's a great scene where Tsukamoto and the rest of his family are there. And then the actual like Dano organization people show up. And it's this really wide shot. And there's just a handful of Hamanaka clan. And then the Dano group is like huge, spread out in front of them.
Yeah.
Just totally dwarfing them.
Shows them how outnumbered they are.
Yeah. Really great setting of the stakes.
I think it's during this scene I think it's a man named Kamiyama. He's a retired boss of the Hamanaka, offers to help Tsukamoto.
Yeah, he says, I'll be your advisor. I'll kind of back you up on things if you want.
See, I expected this guy to be a double-crossing agent.
He has that vibe.
He does.
But no, he's actually stone cold.
Yeah.
Also, during this time, I think it's a bit before the funeral, actually, but Tsukamoto actually meets with the Tsubaki character, the dude in white, who's super cool.
Right.
Because they are actually blood brothers.
Yeah.
They swore an oath a long time ago before Tsukamoto went to jail.
Yeah.
To kind of always have each other's back and watch out for them. So the second he's out of jail, so Tsubaki immediately goes to him and is like, hey, link up with me. Let's you and me mastermind this. We can take over Yokohama. We can run everything. I always got your back. This will be great.
Right.
And he's just like, nah, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Nope.
I made a promise to the boss on his deathbed.
Mm-hmm. I don't like your organization.
I don't like how big they're going. I don't like this huge push that they're making. It's not the way things are supposed to be.
Nope.
So immediately you get this kind of like clash between like the traditional values with like this new modern angle, which we get a lot of scenes with Tsubaki and a lot of the Dano executives where they talk about like, we need to get into politics now. We need to get into having like an interest and a say in like military relations and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're saying that like if they don't do that, they'll eventually die out.
Yeah.
And that the future's then becoming kind of like a pseudo-legit. I mean, it's the same thing over here as like with the Mafia and stuff.
Right. Yeah, you have actual real business interests and stuff like that, fronts and everything.
Yeah.
So Tsukamoto, he wants to call a truce with the Sakurada family and all the fighting. But he decides that he's got to save face, right?
Right.
And appease his men's desire for vengeance. So he's got to kill boss Sakurada.
Yep. That's the only way to make it square.
Yep.
So he's like, I'll kill him. I'll probably die.
Mm-hmm.
But then you guys swear a truce. Break it off with the Dano. Just go back to business as usual.
Yeah, but one of the head guys, Kazama, he goes ahead and takes things into his own hands.
Yep, and this is Bunta Sugawara's character.
Yeah.
Which I was sad. I was like, no, he's gonna die so soon. But it's great because like Tsukamoto makes his resolve, and they ask him not to go, and he's like, nah, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
It's a done deal. Take care of everything once I'm gone. And then he goes out the door, and Kazama's already standing there, and he's like, it's okay, brother. I already took care of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what are you talking about? And then he moves his hand, and his whole body is just covered in blood.
Yeah, and we get this very brief. I think it's even just a static image of him, like, I think he's using a fucking katana, just like killing the boss.
He basically just blitzes in and runs him down and kills him.
So then Kazama falls over, is dead.
Yeah, and Kasama basically tells him, you would probably die. If you didn't die, you would definitely go back to jail. You just got out. We can't do that to you. The Hamanaka's better in your hands than mine.
Mm-hmm.
And Tsukamoto's upset because he's like, you were the future for the clan, not me. I'm just trying to settle up.
Yeah.
I want to, move with you and the younger people and keep growing that way.
Right.
Throws a little wrench in the plan.
And there's another scene between Tsubaki and Tsukamoto, where Tsubaki, Tsubaka's cousin, Tsubaki is trying to convince him to stay with the Dano organization. Tells Tsukamoto he's going to wind up dead if he keeps opposing them. There's no point in it.
Yeah, they make the threats pretty clear.
Yeah.
But he says no.
Nope.
And it's funny because the boss Dano, we might say, he actually respects Tsukamoto for this.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you got a lot of balls to come here and make this declaration and turn me down, but I'm going to respect it.
Yep, so be it.
Until he walks out of the office, and then they immediately start scheming.
Yeah, of course.
On how to tear them down.
Yeah.
And then this is where we also meet another new character, Kazama's sister.
Who gets no name. The few female characters in this movie get no name.
Yeah.
They are merely relatives of someone else.
Yes. And we learn that she's a singer. She's a cabaret singer. She sings at some of the bars in Yokohama.
Played by Mina Ishiki.
She's adorable.
Yeah, she's very pretty.
And Tsukamoto, of course, feels bad about this. And he's like, well, if you ever need anything at all, come let me know. Kazama was really close with me. I'll do anything to help you out.
Right.
So now Tsubaki kind of has to pivot. And they're like, we need a different gang to be our proxy.
Yeah.
We need someone new in the game since we can't control the Hamanaka anymore. And he looks to this gang that's kind of on the fringe called the Hokuryu Kai. And they used to be part of the Tokyo Alliance. And they have no respect for any of the history or the code or the ways of the yakuza. And they kind of just do whatever they want.
They're basically punks.
Yeah.
They're anarchic punks.
And they're led by a man named Miyahara.
Who is the MVP of this movie, as far as I'm
fucking
concerned.
crazy, and also he's a drug addict, and is pretty severely coked up for a lot of the film.
Yeah, and again, this is sort of scenes they wouldn't show, like in the Love American movies at the time, because they actually show him just like, fucking injecting junk.
Yeah. The very first scene, Tsubaki comes to meet them and talk to them, and he has his arm up, and one of the men is injecting him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like having the conversation. He's just like,
yeah, he's
like stringing out. But they kind of give Tsubaki crap because they're like, hey, we were with the Tokyo Alliance. Why would we ally with Osaka?
Mm-hmm.
But he basically kind of gives them like the golden deal of like, swear loyalty to the Dano family, take out the Sakurada, we'll deal with the Hamanaka, and then you can control Yokohama completely.
Right.
I mean, under us, but you'll control it.
Mm-hmm. So then there's these scenes of them like pretty much just going in and massacring all the Sakurada family.
Yeah.
They use guns, they use clubs, they use tantos, they use katanas, pretty much anything and everything.
It's fucking epic.
Yeah. So they're at this nightclub. They're kind of trashing the joint, and they're assaulting one of the patrons or waitresses there. Yeah. And this one man, let's see, what is
Taki's his name.
Taki, yeah.
Yeah.
Of the Hamanaka clan.
They've been trying to stay to the side of this.
Yeah.
Because, Tsukamoto already told them, like, hey, they're going to try to bait us into fighting.
Right. Don't fight. Stay out of it. But, no, they got too much honor for that.
Yeah. You can't come into the bar and just hassle the workers.
So Taki tries to defend her and gets beaten up and kidnapped.
Yep.
taken hostage.
And they contact Tsukamoto. They're like, hey, we got your guy. He tried to fight us. Come to the club if you want to pick him up.
Yep.
We'll give him back to you.
He gets there and he finds Kazama's sister singing there.
We get a little number with her singing. It's a nice little song.
Mm-hmm. So they have a little reunion there. Mm-hmm. And so he goes to the back and finds Taki all beaten up to shit. And Miyahara's there, high out of his fucking mind.
Yep.
And this is a great scene. This is a great scene.
This is where you learn that Tsukamoto's a badass.
He is,
like,
he is
fully and truly, he can back up his words.
Yeah, because he's like, it's nonviolent, protest basically. He's not going to give in. He's not going to give them an excuse to kill him and the rest of his family.
And he's just like, hey, I want my guy back. And they're like, all right, come over here and take him.
Yeah. So all the guys are like, all the goons are like getting in his way,
shoving him, pushing him.
And he just steps around them or whatever. Doesn't take any shit. And Miyahara comes up and just fucking belts him. Hits him a couple times. But Tsukamoto just gets up.
Stares at him.
Keeps walking toward Taki. And then Miyahara grabs a fucking blade and slices at his head.
Yeah, puts a nasty cut on his forehead.
But still, Tsukamoto does nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
And you could tell, I mean, Miyahara, he's apoplectic at this point. You don't know if he's going to have a stroke or what, but you could tell he's angry, but also impressed.
Yeah.
At the same time.
This made me think of like classic samurai films when you have that whole concept of like the killing aura, where like you can just look at the person and tell.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, if I try to fight them, I'm going to die.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Miyahara goes through that in this moment.
Exactly.
Once he cuts him and like he gets no reaction at all, and he's just like, fuck, I don't want to fight this guy.
So they let him take Taki.
Yeah. But unfortunately, Tsukamoto is a little fucked up.
He's a little fucked up, but Kazama's sister, who has no name, helps nurse him back to health. And they, of course, begin to fall in love.
Have a relationship with one another. He talks about his wife a little bit. And we don't get a lot of her backstory, sadly, but...
she's Kazama's sister. What are you talking about?
She doesn't have a lot going on either, so...
The more you need to know.
Yeah. But so, basically, Tsukamoto's out of the picture for a little bit, and the Hamanaka clan just has to lay low, which means the two big alliances are kind of running unhinged. Mm-hmm. So now we get a little more from the Tokyo Alliance side of things. Now that Miyahara's gang is running wild, they're losing control of Yokohama. They need to get that under control. And
Chairman Yado.
Yeah, Chairman Yado.
He has a plan.
He has this interesting plan. He wants to use a guy named Uba, who's a former boss that had a grudge against the Dano organization because he wiped out his family and left him with only one arm.
He's the guy we saw at the beginning.
He is. And so Uba's kind of been like holed up in this shack in secret. They let everyone...
With his wife, who also has no name.
She has no name. They let everyone think that he died in the fight.
Mrs. Uba.
So he's kind of been this secret like back pocket tool.
Right.
Because he's just brewing and waiting for
revenge. He's sitting there waiting to be set loose.
And it's sad because his wife loves him and she just wants to move on from all of this.
But he can't.
He can't.
No. So Uba, goes to this meeting space. He's informed where the boss Dano's going to be.
Yep.
And he's up there like hobnobbing with all these rich people and shit. And
it's kind of like a little like garden, like park place. Too.
Yeah.
Because there's other bystanders nearby.
Yeah.
Which is important.
So Uba just takes out a freaking gun and starts letting loose with it.
Yeah.
He does hit
Yato.
Yeah.
He gets him in the shoulder, right?
Hits him in the shoulder, kills one of his goons, but then they give chase and they're firing at him.
And an American tourist gets shot.
An American female tourist gets shot in the crossfire.
A blonde lady.
Yeah. Fox News would just have a field day with us. So Uba's like running. He's wounded, but he's rescued by the Hamanaka family. And he's kind of like getting nursed back to health and everything. But Tsubaki finds out that he's there because he sees his wife go into those offices. So they know, oh shit, they're going to come after us. They know who you are.
Mm-hmm. And Uba's even like, hey, I can't stay here. I'm going to compromise everything for you. I appreciate what you tried to do, but we got to go.
Yeah. So Uba, they try to leave in secret, but they are found out by the Dano organization. Then there's this big shootout. And Uba's shot dead.
I mean, can we just say, too, like, Uba's fucking badass to have one arm and
and he's still kicking ass.
He almost takes these guys.
Yeah, he does. And this is also really brutal because they shoot him, gun him down, and there's squibs like crazy.
Yeah, even once he's dropped dead, they like empty the clips into him.
And his wife sees this and is freaking out.
She loses her mind. She comes out running after them, screaming.
They're driving away, and they just gun her down too.
Yeah, stone fucking cold.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm beginning to think these Yakuza people are not nice guys.
So because that American tourist died, it's made a lot of media attention, and now things are looking kind of sketchy. And so Bokudo goes to speak to Boss Dano and is like, "Hey, we got to settle this down a little bit.
Yeah,
you need to make peace with the Tokyo Alliance, and also join them in supporting the Japan-U.S. Security Treaty.
More politics."
Because if we get in on that, we'll be, hobnobbing with like everyone in power.
Yeah, but there's a condition.
Yep.
The Tokyo Alliance agrees with the truce, but only if Dano forces out Hakaru Kai.
Yep. Hara's gang. Because they're mad dogs. They need to be put down.
Yep. Can't be trusted. They're too dangerous. The police hate them, so they gotta go.
And it's funny because they try to go talk to them, and they're like, "Hey, deal's off. We're done. Leave Yokohama now. You're finished."
Yeah. So all of his men are like, "Oh no, we're not going to leave you, boss. We can't go." And Miyahara's like, "Get the fuck out of here." He's even like shooting at them and shit.
He shoots right past them too.
There's
a cool shot where the camera's like straight on him, and it's like he's shooting you with the gun.
Yeah. So they reluctantly leave.
And he says, leave, lay low. I'm going to go swear loyalty to Tsukamoto and ally us with the Hamanaka. And that'll give us a chance since you all can survive and hang out with them.
But before that can happen, the Tokyo Alliance finds him.
Yep.
And starts attacking him. But he calls Tsukamoto.
Tells him what's up.
Yeah.
Because at that very moment, Tsukamoto's moving to come and try and rescue him before it all goes down. But he's too late.
I like this too. I like how Tsukamoto seems genuinely concerned for him, even though Miyahara's an asshole. He's a crazy drug addict.
It's a funny at transformation after their face-to-face encounter. Like Miyahara becomes very warm to Tsukamoto.
Yeah, and he even tells him that when I slashed your face, I knew that I wanted to be your blood brother.
Yep.
he's man crushing hard.
He is, and who could blame him?
Who can blame him? I was too.
Yeah. So in this chaos, though, Tsukamoto gets picked up by the police.
Yeah. And they're like, trying to pin everything on him.
They really lay it into him, too, because they're like, you just got out of jail. Look at all the things that have happened since you've been back in action.
Yeah.
Really, all these deaths are your fault.
Yeah. But they really don't have anything on him, so he gets out.
But unfortunately, while he's locked up, the Dano used that as an excuse to launch a surprise attack on the Hamanaka.
Yep.
And wipe out a ton of their members.
Yep. Killed pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Tsukamoto comes back to this, and of course, there's only one thing he can do.
He has to settle up.
Mm-hmm.
And Kazama's sister, who has no name, is there, and we get our classic movie moment. She begs him, don't retaliate.
Yeah, let's just go. Let's go off together.
Grab what money you have. Let's run away together. No more Yakuza, none of this.
Tsukamoto's too honorable for that.
Let's just you and me live a life.
Mm-hmm. And he says, "I'm sorry, Kazama's sister. I can't do that."
He says, "I can't. I have to make this right." And she straight up tells him, she's like, you're just like my brother. You put the gang before everything.
Yeah.
Before
duty, honor, and all that.
Before love, before family.
And he says, "That's right, baby."
before anything, you'll put the gang first and you'll die for it.
Yep.
And he's just like, "Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I will."
Meanwhile, Tsubaki is all pissed off at his boss for his reconciliation with the Tokyo Alliance.
Yeah, everything they were doing was to go up against them.
Yeah.
And take them down.
So now they're like basically being, lapdogs to these people, and that's not what Tsubaki wants.
So they're having this big ceremony again, and it's for the two bosses to meet and sign their formal agreement and end the feud and ally each other. And Tsubaki's kind of creeping around outside because he's in there at first, but he's very frustrated. So he's like, I'm gonna go smoke.
He's pissed.
So he's out there. He lights one up. He's smoking, and then he just sees in the distance, walking down the street, coming up to the ceremony hall. Oh, it's Tsukamoto.
Yep.
And he's got some fucking badass shades on.
He does. Yeah.
And then they kind of, notice one another. And then Tsukamoto drifts over into the row of black sedans. So Tsubaki is like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And he kind of weaves over and then comes back there, and they have this final conversation. And, Tsukamoto's kind of like, hey, you know why I'm here. There's nothing I need to say to you. And Tsubaki's like, I have to try to stop you.
Yeah.
I can't let you go in there.
Right.
You're going to kill the boss.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to fight finally.
Yep. And Tsukamoto has like a Tanto with him.
Yep.
And he charges at Tsubaki.
Who has a gun.
Who does draw his gun. But Tsukamoto gets him, guts him.
Yeah.
And Tsubaki is dying, and he reveals that he took the bullets out of his revolver.
Mm-hmm. He intentionally let himself get stabbed.
Yep. So he wouldn't lose any honor for not protecting his boss.
Who he has no interest in protecting now because he feels wronged by him.
Yep.
So with no one to stop him, they finish up the little ceremony. They're coming out and celebrating and having a good time.
There's goons all around the boss.
Impossible situation to win at.
Well, he knew he wasn't going to walk out of this.
Yep. And Tsukamoto just fucking charges him.
Yeah, rushes up, gets past a lot of the guys, cuts a few of them, gets Boss Dano and the Chairman Yato.
Kills them both. Conveniently doesn't hurt Bokudo, who is there and had been orchestrating this the entire time. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, though...
He does get gunned down.
He gets gunned down by the Yakuza.
But he kept his honor and he got his revenge.
And we just get this kind of cold ending of him laying there bleeding out to death.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal.
Heavy shit.
Indeed.
But damn, what a good movie.
Yeah, it is a good one. I liked it a lot.
I quite enjoyed it. I have some notes.
Okay.
Let's see. It was the producer Shundo who cast Wakayama and Ando, and he selected Fukasaku to direct it because of his style. The plan with Fukasaku was he wanted to kind of transpose the geopolitical situation of the ongoing Cold War, which you mentioned earlier, where the U.S. and the Soviet Union were fighting by using smaller countries in proxy wars, and use that as a framework to tell a Yakuza story. In order to achieve this, he based it on real events using the Atsushi Mizoguchi nonfiction book Blood and Conflict from 1969, which itself was based on magazine reports about the Yamaguchi Gumi, one of the most prominent and well-known Yakuza families in real life. Fukasaku also read Hans Magnus Enzensberger's Politics and Crime, which describes how the state dismantles organizations that it feels are no longer necessary and could be a threat or a danger to the public. The film released in Japan July 8th, 1969, and it debuted as a double feature with Song of the Night, Harbor Town Blues. According to Ito, it was a big success thanks in part to the public's then fascination with the Yamaguchi Gumi. And so immediately after it opened, Toei said, hey, I want a sequel. I need more of these. Please give me more. And they made several more. They made, directed by Junya Sato, Japan Organized Crime Boss, The Boss and the Killers in 1969. Degenerate Boss in 1970. Loyalty Offering in 1972, directed by Yasuo Furuhara. And there's some other funny, weird connecting pieces. In that biography on Fukasaku, the author stated that his film Sympathy for the Underdog, which came out in 1971, was kind of originally developed to be a direct sequel. And they even cast Saruta and Ando in the film again to kind of have some like connective feeling to it. But Fukasaku saw the Battle of Algiers, and then he said, I don't want to just make a film about like a direct sequel to that. I want to make a movie about foreigners and resistance groups, but how's that in the formula of a Yakuza film? Which is what Sympathy for the Underdog ended up being.
Okay.
He often referred to them as sister films. And my last little piece of note, this did get a Blu-ray release, as I mentioned last time, in the UK and the US by way of Radiance Films, and that dropped near the end of 2024. So pretty recent.
Excellent. Do you have that?
I do not. I need to pick it up. It's on my short list of stuff to grab.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome.
Epic. Do you have any notes? I presume I probably
No,
exhausted
I think
everything.
you got. I think you got everything. I had a feeling you would.
Oh yeah. Well, what did you think about this?
I liked it a lot. I think it's a really solid flick. I think it's a little bit ahead of its time.
Definitely.
You know, you look at something like this and look at the American films being produced at the time, and it's like, okay, wow,
like 20 years ahead of schedule.
Because it moves at a nice brisk pace, doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah, it's very well paced.
Editing's great, the music's great. It's that nice. It's like a bridge between 60s and the 70s coming up.
You're getting the grittiness of the 70s.
Yeah, but you still have that kind of classy style of the
Prestige,
60s, you know.
Yeah. Big studio picture.
Yeah. Fun story. You know, I mean, is it an original story? Probably not.
No.
But it's also a very
There's
classical...
like 1,000 other Yakuza films with this plot.
Right.
But this is like, you know,
it's done very well.
Plot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All the actors are very likable.
Yeah. Even the sister.
Even Kazama's sister. Yep.
Which actually, I don't know if it was intentional, but I think in a way that's kind of an interesting choice just because, like, it's almost like we get the regard that these people would have had for the women in their lives.
I mean, it's a man's world.
Yeah, it's a man's world.
And it's all about brotherhood and honor and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Great violence.
Special effects on the blood and the gore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some cool, almost experimental shots here and there, and music. Yeah, I mean, it's a solid, fun movie. I think anyone, it's. You think a lot of people will think of the '60s film. It's slow, it's boring, it's dull. No,
not this one.
This is not that.
From the opening shots, you're just already like, whoa.
Yeah. I give it 4 stars.
Solid.
It doesn't quite get into that classic you must watch area for me. But I think it is a great example of a Yakuza film. It's a great example of, you know, a Japanese film in the 60s, bordering on the 70s. If you want to, I think if you just watch one Yakuza movie, you could not go wrong with this.
Yeah.
I think you could watch this and you've got it.
Yeah.
You know?
If you watch this and you dig it, well, buddy, we have plenty of movies for you now.
Right. And obviously, yeah, like you said, this really influenced Tarantino. It influenced John Woo. You could see that in the story. You know, the whole thing. It is heroic bloodshed.
Yeah. You get to that end and it's like he has to go settle up.
Right.
He can't walk away. There's no other choice. There was another choice.
And there's that respect, even between enemies and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it's a great pick.
Killer. I love it as well. Everything that you said, I 100% agree with. I do think the music's maybe a little weak, and not even that it's bad. It's just that it's like there's no pieces that I'm like it sticks in your mind.
You're not going to be humming it, but it has that very 60s kind of feel to it.
But it is perfect for each scene as it comes in.
Yeah.
I think it's cool to look at this as like a precursor or a test run to the Battles Without Honor and Humanity. That's like that would be like the 5-star Yakuza film for me. That's just like super great. Not that this film is bad, it's just by comparison. Love all the crazy camera angles and stuff we get here, especially in the intro where they were like really just like these short scenes of violence and they're really experimenting with how they can present them and make it look.
Yeah.
I did want to highlight the cinematographer because of course you can't do those crazy shots without a good cameraman. It was Hanjiro Nakazawa. And he actually has some other big credits to his name, like 1965's A Fugitive from the Past, and another Fukasaku film from 1978, The Fall of Akko Castle, which is one of many, many adaptations of the 47 Ronin story.
Okay.
And then, it was like you said, the plot's like very standard for a Yakuza film, but also this is like one of the first ones to really do that. So it's a hallmark that like the first time they got it right, fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
And basically made the blueprint for everyone else to then retell that story in their own style as things changed decade to decade.
Sweet.
So I fucking love it. Think it's great. Highly recommend. Should it be your first Fukasaku? I don't know. I think it would be fine as your first one. And again, like I said, if you like what you see, there's plenty of other Yakuza films to seek out.
Right.
And then any of other of his films, you're golden. Because all either kind of build on or from this. So I give it 4 stars.
Sweet. Yeah. Hey, we're in agreement on that.
Right in the pocket on it.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. And again, it's on Tubi currently. So
yeah,
you're
it's free.
Low investment.
There's very few excuses to not watch this.
All it asks of you is some commercial time, and you can easily flick up your phone And in the most recent update, they even put a countdown in the corner to let you know when it's going to come back on. So,
how much time you got? Go grab a snack, take a whiz, whatever you got to do.
Yep, get back to it.
Nice.
Well, that was fun. I was glad to revisit Japan. Glad to gush about Yakuza films.
Excellent.
Where are we going next?
Okay. We're going to go, I feel, I don't know, I think we've been a little too classy lately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was a classy film.
I think it's time to go sleazy again.
Okay.
I think it's time to go back to 1980.
Okay.
With a Ruggero Deodato film.
Uh-oh.
House on the Edge of the Park.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen this one?
I actually have not. I know of it. I know of its reputation.
Yes.
And I just never picked it up.
Has David Hess in it. Who is famous from Last House on the Left.
Mm-hmm. Of which this film is kind of inspired by?
I think mostly just a ripoff of the title.
Yeah. Okay.
But it is probably, I don't know if it's as sleazy and
With
off-putting
Deodato?
as Last House on the Left, but it has its moments. Yeah, I just want to watch something trashy.
Okay. Yeah, I think this had a Blu-ray from, was it Severin, I think?
I think so. I don't have that one. I have the regular DVD release. But it's streaming for free on Plex.
Oh, okay.
So if you do not own it, you can watch it easily there. Again, just sit through a few ads.
I always remember the poster for this one because of the VHS box. It's got like a Grim Reaper, but it's built out of like the trees.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Has its eyes and
That's really
he's holding
cool.
like a razor blade.
And this is one of those movies that just, sat on the shelves of every horror section back in the day.
I looked at it every time I went to the video store and just never, always found something else instead.
Yep. So I think it's a nice example of prime late 70s, early 80s sleaze.
I've got the synopsis.
Okay, yeah, do it.
A posh couple experience car trouble on their way to a villa party and stop into a local mechanic shop for assistance, unaware of his shady background. After he and his mentally challenged assistant fix the car, the couple invite them to the party to return the favor, leading to an evening of mayhem.
Ooh. And his partner is Giovanni Lombardo Radici,
Oh, okay.
who was in, let's see, oh my gosh.
City of the Living Dead,
City of the Living Dead, Stage Fright.
The Church, The Sect.
Uh-huh.
I guess he's a fave of Soavi then.
Mm-hmm. Cannibal Apocalypse. That's another fun one with John
Cannibal
Saxon.
Ferox.
Yep, Cannibal Ferox. Yeah.
Cool. This guy's getting it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So tune in next time for some nice sleaze.
We love Deodato. We always got to go back to him now and again.
Yeah, we do.
We gotta. Cool. I like it. So let us know what you've been watching. Let us know what you got going on. Send us your film recommendations. We're still going to pull from those when we can. The pool is a little low right now, so good time to send them in. Otherwise, you can hit us up on Facebook. You can hit us up on Twitter, on Instagram. Email us at genreexposure@gmail.com. Let us know what you've been watching. Let us know if you've seen any of these films we're talking about. What did you think about them? What did you like or not like? Do you think the Three Musketeers are relevant in this day and age?
We're past the Three Musketeers. We're not talking about Three Musketeers anymore.
I'm not gonna let it go. No, I'm joking.
I don't care if the third one does come out. We're not gonna watch it. That last one pissed me off too much.
No, I'll be honest. I might watch it on my own for curiosity's sake,
Yeah.
but no, we're not gonna cover it.
No.
I'm sad. I'm sad with the way it ended.
I'm very pissed off.
Disappointed.
Yeah.
All that is to say, you have been listening to Genre Exposure.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.